Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, I want to share with you about 5 things that sets apart people who get selected in these Cadet programs and those who don't. There are some key skills and of course some necessary habits that you need to create in order to guarantee success, at least assure that you are likely to succeed in the process. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for clicking on this video. Now, on this channel, I try to talk about mostly Cadet programs for a specific reason, because I believe it's a unique audience of people who are aspiring to be pilots, but are unable to get into flight training due to, for most people, lack of funds. So let's talk about the first thing. But before I talk about that first thing, please don't forget to drop a like on the video. It goes a long way. And I will always try to respond to your questions or comments. One thing to realize is that I try to do this on my downtime when I'm off. So sometimes I may not respond as quickly as you expect. But if you want to be in touch with me more, you can reach me through my Instagram. And I think my TikTok is below as well. So let's talk about the first thing. The first thing that I would like to say is that those who get selected are generally preparing well in advance. In my last video on this channel, I talked about the fact that we have about 4 months prior to the end of the year, and come 2026, majority of the programs that I've covered this year will come open again next year, which means that if you have gone through some of those programs, you are given another chance to try again. And taking the time now to start preparing is a step ahead of most people. Here's what I would tell you. In order to start preparing, one thing that you want to do is to get into a routine of practice. Routine of practicing your assessments that you're likely to take, routine of practicing those math skills, routine of practicing some interview questions, and try to juggle your memory on your experiences. When you go in for any interview, at the end of the day, the questions you will be asked are based on your experiences and how you narrate those experiences to the interviewer to draw out the competencies that they look for. The biggest thing that every airline wants is a competent pilot. Now, those competencies are a list of different skills, whether it's situational awareness, leadership, teamwork, decision making. All those are skills that needs to be demonstrated, at least proven to an interviewer during the process of being selected. And your ability to truly present those skills in a unique way that stands out during the interview starts now, not the week before your interview, not 2 weeks before your interview. Because one thing that a lot of people fail to realize is that when you understand the questions that you are likely to be asked during an interview, you will take the time to start thinking about how to best answer those questions. So on your regular day-to-day activity, without you preparing for an interview, a lot of events will happen that are ideal for answering an interview question, but because you haven't taken the time to really document what skills you used during that interaction with somebody or during that period where you had to make a difficult decision, those skills that you used are what they want to hear and see during an actual interview. But because you haven't taken the time well in advance to start documenting or at least noting those important skills and how you executed on a particular action, so what people do is that you start preparing for an interview a week prior to the actual assessment, and guess what? You don't have the memory of those events that happened 4-5 months ago because you haven't taken the time to start documenting them. Hence the reason why those who succeed often take the time and put in the effort to get well ahead of the process. Studying, practicing, taking notes, just seeing what others have gone through. Those are things that you can do. The second thing that has helped, that I've seen help a lot of people that go through, is the math aspect of things as well. A lot of people, including myself, right? There are times when if you haven't practiced some things in the recent times, you will forget. You will forget it. It is normal. It's not what you do on a day-to-day basis. So you can't expect it to stick with you just because, hey, you've done it in the past. So most people that go through this selection processes, assessment, they spend a lot of time practicing their math. And one thing I want you to understand is that sometimes it's not about dedicating 4 or 5 hours a day. No, that's not what you want to do. It's all about taking a bit of time, whether it's every week, whether it's every day, depending on what your schedule looks like. Maybe it's every 2 days, having a dedicated time where you spend to practice a particular topic in the math section. For example, is it percentages? Is it the ratios? Is it the, whatever the calculation may be, right? You're taking the time to practice those things. And honestly, sometimes that's where this whole past thing comes into it. If you haven't seen past the pilot assessment website, they do have some, topics that can help you go in this methodical manner that can help you prepare for this assessment. But at the same time, you have to remember that spending time on your own definitely would help you in succeeding. But it is something that needs to be done on your own. Nobody's going to wait for you, and you have to be the one to take charge of this situation. The next thing that I know helps a lot of people that have succeeded is the spirit of not giving up. Now, this is something that I always share at the end of every program. I always come up here and talk about like, hey, this is what I heard. This is what is going on. These are the things that people maybe failed on, or what is common anyway. Now, one thing that I will say is that those that got selected generally didn't get through on the first try. They generally have to try again, maybe second or third time, and then they get selected. So the spirit of being resilient is something that you need to have. You need to be strong-willed and be determined to get through it, which means that you're willing to do what it takes. There will be times when you get discouraged. There'll be times when you feel like this is not worth it. There'll be times where you feel you don't have what it takes. But at the end of the day, take back every feedback you get. Take them with you and work on those areas in which you were deficient in, whether it's the assessments during the interview, or whether it's the group activity, or whether it's the math, or whatever it may be. You want to spend time to really work on those things. Those are things that I will encourage you to work on, and to realize that sometimes it's not about getting through the first time. It's about realizing that you will have to be resilient in this process. You would have to be tougher than the process, which means that you have to do what it takes. Okay. Now, the next point of the things that I've seen that helped a lot of people is that they are willing to network. They are willing to talk to people. They are willing to connect. They are willing to seek help. That is something that I've seen. And the reason why this is an important one is that a lot of times some people prefer to work alone. You have to understand that aviation isn't a place where you work alone. You're often working with different parts of this mission, or at least to achieve that mission, there are different people involved, which means that you have to be able to work with them and make decisions together, resolve problems together, and work through things. The same thing applies even through the selection process. When you choose to work alone, yes, you may have the resources, but sometimes being in the group of people or in the midst of other people, friends, chats, whatever it may be, right? Being in the midst of other people can help to shape your understanding of what is required. You see what other people are getting information from, the type of information they're getting, and of course, you get insight into how other people answer specific questions. So there are times when somebody will ask, will be asked a question in the lines of what got you interested in aviation? And the answer the person gives can really bring out some information out of you that you never thought about, because you just didn't think about them. You felt like it wasn't important. But the way you hear someone else narrate their own, passion for aviation can really ignite a different approach, right? In the way you answer the same question. And that is the benefit of working together in a group. You are able to get insights from others. You're able to see more understanding of what you could use in your own answers as well. And those things can be beneficial. A lot of times it's often beneficial to be in that environment. Now, you have to remember that in any of these tips that I share and these things that I share, your experience will be unique, right? Your experience will be unique, which means if you find yourself in a unique situation, what do you have to do? You have to be adaptable to that situation. You have to be able to adapt and be flexible, make changes. Because remember, I don't talk about every program out there. That is the truth. But when you, let's say you watch my BA video, but then you're applying to the Singapore program, right? Some of the tips that I share in that BA program remains applicable to the 2A program or to the Singapore program or the Jet 2 program. The point here is the lessons generally transfer over no matter the program I may be talking about. So what am I trying to say? You have to remain flexible to understand that yes, some topics or some programs may not be applicable to you, but the information from those topics do apply to whatever you may be going through. Now, there are times where I'm focused more on the procedural aspect of a program, whether it's the selection process itself. So yes, those will be totally different because every program has its own. But when you go back to the basics of it, they all have some form of assessment. They all have some form of interview. They all have some form of maybe group exercise or activity that you have to go through. So in most of the videos, when I'm talking about these things, those skills, those pointers will all remain applicable to all the programs out there. And that's why I always encourage you that, try to watch some of these videos, even if the program isn't applicable to you specifically, the lessons about the tips that I share remain applicable. There are things that you can take away from the video. It takes a lot to make these videos. You have found value in this one. Please don't forget to drop a like on it. Again, remember, the goal is to help you achieve success. And when I get those messages from people out there sharing that, how they go through a program or how they got selected, honestly, it is what motivates me to keep making these videos, to keep showing up, and hopefully we get to achieve those goals. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in a future one.